President Trump stood at the grand podium of the United Nations General Assembly. It was a moment designed for the cameras, for history, for projecting American strength on the world stage. The speech was vintage Trump, a blend of nationalist fervor, bold proclamations about his administration's successes. But as the words echoed through the cavernous hall, they were already being drowned out. A different story was breaking, not international diplomacy, but domestic intrigue, hijacking the news cycle. Attention pivoting from world leaders. Dimly lit hotel room, briefcase full of cash. Tom Homan, name about to become infamous. The contrast was cinematic, almost too perfect to be real. News alerts flashed across phones in the press gallery. Living rooms across America saw the alerts. The details felt ripped from a political thriller. The United Nations, a symbol of global order, became the ironic backdrop. Headlines meant to read, "Trump triumphs at UN, FBI, sting, cover-up." The president's moment was over before it began. White House aides scrambling for damage control, prepped aides fielding frantic questions about one of their own, message discipline collapsing under breaking news. Tom Homan, former acting director of ICE. Secret recordings and alleged corruption replaced global statesmanship. Files, tapes, and money exchanges, shifting the ground beneath their feet in real time. The world was watching, but they weren't listening to the speech anymore. The story begins in the quiet, shadowy world of federal law enforcement. According to sources who have since come forward, the FBI had been running a sophisticated undercover operation for months. The target was not some low-level functionary, but Tom Homan. The setup was classic, a textbook sting. Undercover agents posing as lobbyists for a foreign corporation approached Homan. They weren't seeking a policy change, they wanted influence. They wanted his help securing a lucrative government contract, a contract he could uniquely steer. The climax allegedly took place in a hotel room just outside Washington, D.C. The room was wired for video and audio. Every angle was covered. The undercover agents presented their offer and a briefcase. Inside, $50,000 in cash, a down payment for Homan's assistance. It was the moment of truth. Sources say Homan discussed the arrangement and accepted the briefcase. He allegedly assured the agents of his support, outlining how he'd use his connections. He was reportedly calm, professional, transactional. He discussed contract specifics and how his influence could affect procurement. This wasn't clumsy or amateur. It looked like a service provider/client meeting. The briefcase exchange sealed the deal. For FBI agents watching the feed, it must have felt like a slam dunk. They had him on tape accepting what appeared to be a bribe. The implications were staggering, but that is not what happened. Just when the FBI's case against Tom Homan seemed destined for the courts, something unexpected happened. The investigation came to a screeching halt. High-level officials at the Department of Justice, after reviewing the file, made the decision to decline prosecution. The official reason, articulated in carefully worded statements, was a lack of sufficient evidence to secure a conviction beyond a reasonable doubt. They argued that Homan's words on the tapes were ambiguous, that his intent could be interpreted in multiple ways, and that a skilled defense attorney could easily create enough doubt to lead to an acquittal. The case, they concluded, was simply not strong enough to move forward. The file was stamped closed. This decision landed like a thunderclap in Washington, creating a deep schism between career prosecutors and political appointees. Within the FBI and among line prosecutors at the DOJ, there was a sense of disbelief and outrage. Agents who had spent months building the case, who had watched Homan take the briefcase with their own eyes, felt betrayed. They were convinced they had more than enough evidence. To them, the ambiguity cited by DOJ leadership was a manufactured excuse, a political fig leaf designed to protect a powerful ally of the president. The decision not to prosecute felt less like a legal judgment and more like a political intervention. A message from the top that some individuals were simply off limits. Public reaction was, predictably, split down partisan lines. For opponents of the Trump administration, the DOJ's decision was a smoking gun, the clearest evidence yet of a politicized Justice Department acting as a shield. On the other side, supporters of the president and Homan himself celebrated the decision as a vindication. The story was no longer just about Tom Homan's alleged actions, it was now about the actions of the Department of Justice itself. There's a unique power to recorded evidence. It is a ghost in the machine of politics, an incorruptible witness that can cut through spin-denial political posturing. A transcript can be debated, a witness's memory can be questioned, but a clear video or audio recording of someone committing a crime is visceral and undeniable. This is why the very existence of secret tapes in the Homan case has become the central pillar of this entire scandal. The knowledge that a recording exists, a recording that DOJ officials have seen but the public has not, is what fuels the allegations of a cover-up. It creates an asymmetry of information where a small group of political appointees holds a truth that the rest of the country is desperate to know. The allegation of a cover-up works on a very simple and powerful premise. If the tapes truly exonerated Tom Homan, they would have been leaked by now. His defenders, including those in the administration, would have every incentive to release the footage to clear his name and discredit the FBI agents who ran the sting. They could triumphantly declare it a deep state frame-up and play the video on a loop on conservative media. The fact that the tapes remain hidden, locked away in a DOJ vault, is seen by critics as a tacit admission of their damning nature. The silence is deafening. It suggests the contents are so politically toxic that the only viable strategy is to suppress them entirely and hope the story goes away. This strategy of suppression, however, often has the opposite effect. It amplifies curiosity and suspicion, turning the unseen evidence into a subject of intense speculation. In the end, the tapes represent a ticking time bomb. The ghost in the machine is quiet for now, but everyone in Washington knows it's still there, waiting. While the story of a cash-filled briefcase seems straightforward on the surface, proving bribery in a court of law is notoriously difficult. It's a legal minefield where prosecutors face a high burden of proof. It isn't enough to simply show that a public official accepted money. Prosecutors must prove, beyond a reasonable doubt, that there was a clear quid pro quo, a specific promise to perform an official act in exchange for that money. This element of intent is the crux of the matter and the place where many bribery cases fall apart. A skilled defense attorney can create a world of ambiguity around a defendant's state of mind. The defense almost always argues that the money was not a bribe but something else entirely. A gift from a friend, a campaign contribution, a consulting fee for future work unrelated to official duties, an act of playing along to expose a setup. Defense lawyers can parse every word on a recording, arguing that their client never made an explicit promise. They can claim their client's statements were just puffery or vague assurances, not a concrete agreement to trade an official act for cash. They introduce doubt, and in the American legal system, reasonable doubt is all that is needed for an acquittal. This is precisely the justification the Department of Justice used when it declined to prosecute Tom Homan. The fact that DOJ leadership disagreed highlights the subjective nature of prosecutorial discretion. The moment the Department of Justice shut down the Homan case, the legal battle transformed into a political war. With the judicial route closed off, congressional Democrats immediately seized the initiative, moving the fight from the courtroom to the halls of Congress. The chairs of the House Judiciary Committee and the House Oversight Committee announced joint investigations, framing the issue as potential bribery and as a full-blown obstruction of justice crisis. Their strategy is simple and powerful: demand transparency. They are leveraging their subpoena power to demand access to all materials related to the case. The tapes, the internal DOJ memos, the communications between the White House and the Justice Department, the central demand echoed in press conferences and on cable news is for the public release of the Homan tapes. Democrats understand the explosive power of such evidence. They are betting the recordings are as damning as FBI agents believed, and that making them public would be politically devastating for the Trump administration. By calling for the tapes' release, they put the administration in an impossible position. If the administration refuses, it reinforces the narrative of a cover-up. If it complies, it risks revealing evidence of corruption that could implicate Homan and potentially others within the president's orbit. It is a classic political checkmate, designed to inflict maximum damage regardless of the outcome. The clash will test the limits of congressional oversight and the administration's ability to contain a scandal spiraling out of control. As the political and legal standoff intensifies, the future of the Homan scandal hinges on a series of potential turning points, like dominoes lined up in a row. The most immediate and explosive possibility is a leak. The secret tapes and internal DOJ documents are currently held under lock and key, but they were seen by dozens of people: FBI agents, prosecutors, political appointees. Many of the career officials who feel the case was improperly shut down now face a crisis of conscience. A single act of principled defiance, a leak of the video file to a news organization, could change everything in an instant. The administration knows this, and the fear of an internal whistleblower is palpable. Beyond the specter of a leak, the next phase of this drama will unfold in the public forum of congressional hearings. The testimony of the FBI agents involved in the sting could be devastating. Imagine these agents sworn to uphold the law, describing in meticulous detail how they built their case, how they witnessed Tom Homan accept the cash, and how their work was suddenly and inexplicably shut down by their superiors. Their testimony would put a human face on the abstract notion of obstruction. It would create a powerful narrative of dedicated public servants being overruled by political forces, a story that would resonate deeply with the American public, and put immense pressure on the DOJ. Legal maneuvers also remain a possibility, though the paths are narrow. Every new piece of testimony and every new document obtained by Congress could open up a fresh avenue for prosecution, keeping the legal thread alive. Could be the finger that tips the first one over, setting off a chain reaction that no one can predict or control. At its core, the Tom Homan scandal is a war over the narrative. For the Trump presidency, long known for controlling the story, this is a profound, dangerous challenge. The administration's political strategy rests on one ability: to define reality for its supporters, to dismiss inconvenient facts as fake news, to paint any investigation as a partisan witch hunt. This scandal is harder to spin. Core elements: an FBI sting, secret tapes, a briefcase of cash. Those elements are simple, tangible, instantly understood. They resist the usual muddying and misdirection. The administration is now on the defensive, forced to react to a story it did not create and cannot easily control. The scandal hits the president's central brand. Trump built his rise on a promise to drain the swamp, to purge pay-to-play corruption from Washington. The Homan case looks like the opposite. A close ally allegedly accepting cash in a hotel room from supposed lobbyists strikes at the heart of that promise. Opponents now have a powerful, digestible counter-narrative. The swamp was never drained. The outcome will determine whether the presidency survives with credibility intact. As the dust settles from the initial explosion of the Tom Homan scandal, the road ahead remains shrouded in uncertainty, defined by a fundamental conflict between power and accountability. What comes next will be a test of our institutions, our political will, and the very nature of truth in the modern age. Everyone from the president's staunchest critics to his most loyal supporters wants to see the evidence. The demand for the release of the tapes is a unifying cry. One side expects to see proof of a crime, the other expects to see proof of a frame-up. Until that evidence is public, the country will be left to grapple with suspicion and speculation. The power to resolve this impasse currently rests in a few key hands. The Attorney General holds the keys to the kingdom. The chairs of the congressional committees hold the power of oversight. And somewhere, in the depths of the federal bureaucracy, a potential whistleblower holds the power to circumvent all official channels and deliver the evidence directly to the American people. The balance of power is fragile, and the decision of any one of these actors could trigger the next phase of the crisis. For Donald Trump's presidency, this scandal represents more than just another political firestorm. It is a reckoning. It is a direct challenge to his administration's relationship with the rule of law and its commitment to transparency. The way the White House and the Department of Justice handle this crisis will have lasting consequences for public trust in government. Ultimately, the Homan affair is a stress test for American democracy. The outcome will tell us a great deal about the health of our republic and whether accountability is still a currency that holds value in Washington.